Patrick Mahomes has been the NFL's hottest prospect since his debut in the 2018 season. Having only been in the league for 5 seasons, in which he's only played 4, he's already racked up some of the NFL's highest accolades, winning NFL MVP, appearing in 2 Super Bowls, one of which he ended up winning, and 4 conference championships, all of which have been hosted at Arrowhead. With all this being held as evidence, I think it's pretty safe to say that Patrick Mahomes is the shining star of the Chiefs organization, and the main reason they've seen so much success in the past 4 years. But all this glory and all the trophies, and yet the Chiefs' kingdom continuously ceases to realize that their team was hot garbage before this man came along. Call me wrong, but deep down inside you know it's true. The fact is that before Super Bowl 54, Kansas City's last Super Bowl appearance came 50 years before, when quarterback Len Dawson and coach Hank Stram led the team to the promised land in Super Bowl 4 against the Minnesota Vikings. After that, it was endless pain and suffering in the playoffs. I won't go into too much detail about that for the sake of my subscribers from Kansas City. Oh wait, I have like 55 subs total. But I'll sum it up for you. Went to playoffs, lost in playoffs, no Super Bowl, big fat L. Oh, and they also got Joe Montana on his retirement tour or whatever. But yeah, basically the Kansas City Chiefs were pretty bad. And if they were good, it always seemed like the best they could do was go to the AFC Championship game. And then lose. Speaking in the context of the modern era, the Kansas City Chiefs were still unable to break this endless pattern of sorrow. Even after hiring Andy Reid as the head coach from the Philadelphia Eagles in 2013, things still weren't looking up in the city. In that season, Andy Reid led his team to a 9-0 starting record, including a win in Lincoln Financial Field against his former team, but ended up bottling the second half of the season and losing 45-44 to the Indianapolis Colts in the wild card round. In 2014, they finished their season 9-7 and failed to make the playoffs. 2015 was much of the same deal for the first 6 games, as Kansas City lost 5 straight to start the season with a 1-5 record. They however turned things around, winning 10 out of 10 and making the playoffs. Reid and Alex Smith led the Chiefs to their first playoff win since 1993 as they shut the Texans out 30-0. The Chiefs were on fire. Only a wall could stop them now. Its name is the New England Patriots. 2016 again saw much of the same thing. The Chiefs were 12-4 in the regular season, clinching the number 2 seed in a first-round bye. They end up losing in the divisional round because the Steelers exist. 2017 was the exact same scenario. The Chiefs have a great regular season, making it to a wildcard game against the Titans. They're holding on to a 21-3 lead at halftime, and all is well in Arrowhead. But come on, this is the Chiefs we're talking about. Of course they give up 19 unanswered points to lose the game. By this point, the Chiefs organization is calling for Andy Reid's head, and Kansas City is in a state of turmoil. Andy Reid has much to coach for as he enters the last season of his contract and would be looking for an extension in a league that sees him as an aging old man. The one bright light for the Kansas City Chiefs has left as well by now, Alex Smith having signed a contract with the Redskins. That did not work out so well for him. So now, in the face of a crisis and short staffing on the quarterback position, Kansas City has no answers. Enter Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was a first-round pick for the Chiefs in the 2017 NFL Draft, but they had decided to bench him for the entire season because, well, Alex Smith. But this year, he was to be called into action as the primary starting QB for the Kansas City Chiefs, and boy did he rise to the occasion. The 2018 season was where the world got its first glimpse of Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, and wow, what a season it was for him. From the moment he touched the field, this guy was doing things that had never been imagined before in the sport. No-look passes, shovel passes, passes after like 3 or 4 hits. I think he even threw a touchdown to an offensive lineman that year. Patrick Mahomes had an amazing season in 2018, throwing for 5,097 yards and 50 touchdowns, giving up just 12 interceptions across 16 games for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes went crazy throughout the entire season. The Chiefs started the year with a 5-0 record, beating teams like the Chargers and Steelers, and even leading a crazy comeback against the Broncos in Week 4, making probably his best throw of the season so far. Despite a tough loss on the road to the New England Patriots in Week 6, Mahomes never lost his touch and continued on doing what he did best, making plays. Kansas City was loving their new starting quarterback, and in just half a season he'd already started dishing out some of the greatest single-player games we as fans had ever seen. Who can forget the 54-51 loss to the Rams in what is considered the greatest Monday Night Football game of all time, or the unforgettable Sunday night game in Seattle? Note that these 2 games were both losses for Kansas City. Even when they're losing, Mahomes finds some way to be in the spotlight. Patrick Mahomes was a superstar, not to mention the talk of the NFL up to this point. That year, the Chiefs finished with a 12-4 record overall, clinching the number 1 seed as well as the division title. Marking their calendars for the playoffs is a nervous time for Kansas City each year, but this time they had hope. Who am I kidding? Chiefs fans aren't idiots. They know Kansas City will never even dream of winning a Super Bowl for like another 30 years. They know they're just gonna end up taking a big fat L like they always do and wait for the next season where they're never— Oh my god! They actually did it. They beat the Colts, that too 31-13. Kansas City will host the AFC Championship game. The championship game was a great game with both teams scoring potently on either side of the ball. Every time New England scored, Kansas City had an answer. With the Chiefs trailing 31-28 and 32 seconds on the clock, Mahomes pulled a rabbit out of his hat and drove his team 50 yards to set up the game-tying field goal for Harrison Butker. He kicks it through. Overtime. The Patriots win the toss and choose to receive. Tom Brady takes his time moving down the field, giving the Chiefs, the fans, and the press a little history lesson as he does. Eventually, Brady takes the game with a winning touchdown, not even letting Mahomes touch the ball after regulation. We all know what happens from there. Brady wins Super Bowl 53 in one of the most astronomically boring games I've ever seen, and the Chiefs are left to think of what could have been for the 2018 season. Mahomes' stellar performance proves to be enough to get him the MVP award that year, and a number 4 placement on the NFL Top 100 list. More importantly though, Chiefs fans and NFL fans were extremely excited about the things that were to come. The 2019 season was one of high expectations in the Chiefs' kingdom. After last year, the men in red wanted a Super Bowl, and they knew that they had the one player in the league that could go out there and get it for them. Patrick Mahomes responded to that pressure by picking up right where he left off. Despite missing 4 games in the regular season, Mahomes still racked up a grand total of 4,039 passing yards and 26 touchdowns. He put on a splendid show, taking on some of the best teams in the league with minimal effort. The game in which he vanquished the eventual conference winner Baltimore Ravens was one to behold. The injury to Mahomes put 2 losses on the schedule that could have been avoided, but nevertheless, Kansas City remained happy with the number 2 seed and a first-round bye. The Chiefs met the Texans on a cold Saturday afternoon at Arrowhead in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. The game was expected to be an easy Kansas City win, but boy was everyone mistaken. In the opening possession, Deshaun Watson found Kenny Stills wide open, a touchdown for Houston. Kansas City gets possession but is stopped in their own half of the field. As Dustin Colquitt prepares to punt the ball back, the Texans special teams comes through big time and blocks it. The ball is picked up and returned for a touchdown. As the Chiefs prepare to return a Texans punt, returner Tyreek Hill muffs it and the Texans recover, scoring another touchdown in the following drive. Another Texans drive results in a field goal, making it 24-0 Houston with 10 minutes left in the second quarter. Then, something weird happens. Mahomes drives his team down the field and throws a touchdown pass to Damian Williams. Then one to Travis Kelce. Then one to Kelce again. Then another one to Kelce. The Kansas City Chiefs make 4 touchdowns in 9 minutes and turn the game on its head, 28-24 at halftime. Kansas City continues in the second half, scoring on 4 more consecutive possessions, Mahomes leading the 4th largest comeback in playoff history. The final score, 51-31. Patrick Mahomes becoming the first player in NFL history to pass for over 300 plus yards, throw 5 touchdowns, and rush for 50 plus yards in a playoff game. The Chiefs are 1 championship game away from going to the championship game. They're scheduled to meet the Titans at home in a week's time. The game against the Titans got off to a rocky start, much like the one against the Texans a week ago, but the Kansas City Chiefs proved to be up to the challenge and ready to take on Tennessee. The Titans start with 2 scores on 2 consecutive possessions. The score is 10-0 and Kansas City is in deep trouble. Mahomes rallies his troops and they march down the field for a touchdown off a Tyreek Hill jet sweep. The Titans follow suit and score a touchdown of their own via a catch from offensive lineman Taylor Lewan to make the score 17-7 Tennessee. And then, the massacre begins. Mecole Hardman has a fiery kick return for 40 yards and Kansas City begins, as said by legendary coach Hank Stram, matriculating the ball down the field. Passing and rushing both flow smoothly as Kansas City begins to see nothing but turf. The near-perfect drive is capped off with a touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill, 17-14, game on. Kansas City has 1 more drive before the end of the half. This one is fluent as well. Mahomes gets into field goal range, but it seems that with the half ending, he wants more. It's 2nd and 10 from the Tennessee 27-yard line. Mahomes takes the snap. The Titans pressure him on a 4-man rush. He escapes it and starts to run. A few Titans jump on him but slip off just as easily. Mahomes breaks 2 or 3 more tackles and falls into the end zone. Touchdown Chiefs. 21-17 at the half, Kansas City is in business. They seem to have picked up even more steam after the break as 2 more touchdowns follow suit in the 3rd and 4th quarters. 1 handoff to Damian Williams and 1 50-yard pass to Sammy Watkins. The defense is able to keep the Titans in check and the clock runs out. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions of the AFC. 50 years after their win in Super Bowl IV against the Vikings, Kansas City would be going to Super Bowl 54 to contest against the San Francisco 49ers for the Lombardi Trophy. And it was all thanks to that man, Patrick Mahomes, the innovator, the specialist, the talisman. The Kansas City Chiefs were Super Bowl bound. Super Bowl 54 was played at Hard Rock Stadium with a total seat count of 65,326, all of which were filled. It seemed that all 65,000 people in the stadium were cheering on Kansas City. They knew that the game wasn't going to be easy, but if there was anyone who could do it, it was Patrick Mahomes. The 49ers might have come out onto the field to a big cheer across the stadium, but when Kansas City set foot on the sunny Miami turf, they were greeted with a roar. Mahomes sprinted across the field, pointing to the fans and screaming. He was ready. Everyone was ready. The Chiefs were ready to take back the mantle that had been bestowed upon them 5 decades ago, and the 49ers were ready to put a conclusive stamp on their NFL legacy. As for the winner, only time would tell. The 49ers kicker Robbie Gould set the ball up and kicked it off into the floodlights. Hardman returned it out of the end zone for 25 yards. Kansas City goes 3-and-out to start the game, and the ball is returned by the 49ers after an initial muff from Richie James Jr. The 49ers start their drive with a bang. A pitch to Deebo Samuel for 30 yards off the very first play. Into Chiefs territory they go. Another few passes and one more run from Deebo Samuel ensure that the 49ers get into field goal range. They kick the field goal and score the first points of the game, 3-0 San Francisco. But as we've seen before, field goals are not enough to stop Patrick Mahomes. He leads his team on a drive for the ages, throwing pinpoint passes and using his speed and strength to pull off some amazing runs. Suddenly, it's 4th and 1, and the Chiefs are on the 6-yard line. The most strategically complicated part of a football field. What do?
A shift and a direct snap. It's Williams.
I'll tell you what they do. They pull out a play from the 50s and use Damian Williams to get the first down. Andy Reid, you really are a genius. The Chiefs are down at the 1-yard line. Mahomes takes the snap with Williams following right behind him. He pretends to flip it to Williams, juking out a 49ers defender and then taking it in for the Kansas City touchdown himself. 7-3 Kansas City with 31 seconds remaining in the opening quarter. The defense is able to back up the offense perfectly. On the next San Francisco drive, the Chiefs come up with an interception thanks to Bashaud Breeland, which the offense turns into 3 points and a 10-3 scoreline in favor of Kansas City. With 9:26 remaining in the second quarter, the 49ers begin to realize that they're in the Super Bowl and start to up the tempo. Deebo Samuel continues to show his game-changing capability as Frisco maneuvers around the dominant Chiefs defense to find a way to get down the field. Finally, as the 49ers are close to the end zone, Garoppolo dumps off a pass to Kyle Juszczyk. He leaps in past 3 Chiefs defenders for a touchdown. After this, the Niners' Gold Rush defense gets a much-needed stop and the ball is punted back to them with a minute left on the clock. They start from their own 25-yard line. A few big plays and the 49ers are at the 40. Jimmy Garoppolo finds George Kittle along the sideline for 35 yards, but the play is called back and the half ends at 10-10. The second half commences as the 49ers get into field goal range and Robbie Gould kicks them into a 3-point lead. The next Chiefs possession, Mahomes looks uneasy. The defense is out to get him and they succeed in doing so. Mahomes is pressured and forced to throw the ball away. Unfortunately, it goes straight into the hands of Fred Warner, who picks it off. The 49ers get the ball in Chiefs territory and push for a touchdown to make it a 2-possession game. They convert a few first downs thanks to, you guessed it, Deebo Samuel. Then a huge pass from Jimmy G to Kendrick Bourne gets the red and gold inside the 15-yard line. Another pass to Juszczyk gets them to the 1-yard line. Then a give to Raheem Mostert and he takes it in for the 49ers touchdown. The score is 20-10 San Francisco going into the fourth quarter. Kansas City is in big trouble, and they need to think of something fast. Mahomes drives KC into field goal range, pushing for a touchdown. He throws a pass to Tyreek Hill. It bounces off his arm and goes into the hands of another 49ers defender. The last thing Kansas City wanted. They get a stop, but only have 7 minutes left on the clock and are trailing by 10 points. They have to face a 3rd and 15 at their own 35. This play could make or break the game. Mahomes takes the snap and loads up for a big throw. He slings it up and over and finds Tyreek Hill wide open at the 49er 20-yard line. The pass is caught brilliantly, and Kansas City has new life. Off this motivation, they move down the field with Mahomes eventually finding Kelsey for the Kansas City touchdown. The Chiefs get back into the game. On the next 49ers possession, they're stopped and the Chiefs get the ball back. Mahomes walks onto the field for the drive that'll probably decide the season. 4 minutes between him and greatness, all depending on this one drive. It starts out well. The Chiefs are able to matriculate the ball down the field nicely. Hank Stram would be proud. Mahomes was escaping tackle after tackle and producing plays left, right, and center. The drive was truly a beautiful summation of his entire career up to this point. He passes the ball to Sammy Watkins, who catches it deep in 49er territory. Then a dump off to Damian Williams, who runs it in for the touchdown. Kansas City jumps on top 24-20. The 49ers try a last gasp drive to win the game, but it comes to no avail. Garoppolo drops back to throw on the KC-49 and gets pressured. He gets sacked. The Chiefs score a go-ahead touchdown as an added bonus and wait for the final whistle to blow. They've done it. The Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions, and they have one man to thank for it. Patrick Mahomes, the man with the expectations of an entire city riding on his shoulder. The man who led his team to the same legacy that had been established half a century after Hank Stram, Lamar Hunt, and Len Dawson staked their claim on the NFL. Screaming, cheering, chanting, Hard Rock Stadium decided to erupt with a combination of all the three. They couldn't believe it. The dream that had seemed impossible, the achievement that was constantly put off, and the story of a lifetime, all were now coming true right in front of all of our eyes. Mahomes had done it, and he'd made it look so easy. Finally, the Chiefs were back where they belonged, on top of the NFL's highest summit. Even if the next 2 seasons for Mahomes didn't entail another Super Bowl win, that's not to say they went to waste in any way. The following year, Kansas City would make an appearance in Super Bowl 55 against the Buccaneers. Even though they lost 31-9, the most famous play for that game was still a certain Patrick Mahomes throw. Mahomes was even placed number 1 on the top 100 list after that year. Even the season after, he continued to dominate the NFL, taking his team to the AFC Championship game. Overall, going into 2022, which would be his 5th season in the league, Mahomes has already thrown for 18,991 passing yards and 151 TDs, and it doesn't look like he plans to stop anytime soon. I don't want to say he's the next Tom Brady or the next Joe Montana, because he's neither of those. He's Patrick Mahomes. He's himself, one of a kind, and nobody can even think to emulate him. As for the upcoming season, I'm sure there's a lot more of that Mahomes magic to come. Who knows, maybe he'll even win another Super Bowl. One thing's for sure, Patrick Mahomes is the best player the NFL has seen for a while, and in a league full of uncertainty where anything can happen to anyone at any time, I can assure you one thing. This man is going places. He's flying high, and he still has a long journey ahead of him, having only played 4 seasons. But even if he retired now, Patrick Mahomes will be remembered as one of the most innovative players to ever touch a football field, and the man that revived the Kansas City Chiefs after 50 years.